Do your late intermediate students tense up and hold rigid hand positions when they're playing those parallel octave intervals? Well, this is a common challenge, and I've helped countless students move past this exact issue in my studio. So today I'm sharing 4 multisensory activities that help your students play parallel octave intervals smoothly and without tension. So let's start with getting parallel octave intervals into your students' bodies before their fingers ever touch the keys. At the late intermediate level, octaves often appear in the accompaniment, creating like that stronger pulse than a lot of other patterns. And this makes them perfect for whole body movement. So listen to how the parallel octave intervals drive this music forward and create that interplay between light and dark. Light Dancing in the Dark is available on my website, and it's specifically designed for activities like these. The educational concepts are built right into the music, so link is in the description or QR code's right here. Now here's your first activity. Put on the music and walk with your student to the pulse. Ask them, does the tempo feel quick or slow? If there's extra rhythmic interest, like the 16th notes in the piece I played, add hand movements to match the rhythm. So your students can use their palms flat or palms curled to create a knocking motion. And these large motor movements help your students internalize the rhythmic drive of parallel octaves before asking their hands to coordinate the fine motor control of actually playing them. By the way, if you're new here, welcome. I'm Rosemarie. I've been teaching for over 20 years and composing imaginative educational piano music for nearly as long here at Must Love Music. Okay, let's address that tension issue directly at the piano. Now, I have small palms, so it's incredibly important for me to move out of the octave position regularly so that my hands don't cramp up. One of the biggest struggles I found with my students is holding their hand in a really rigid position as they move between octaves, and of course, we know that can lead to injuries if not taken care of early in the learning process. Now, getting your students' hands used to moving from an extended position, so something like this, to a relaxed position quickly makes all the difference. So here's your second activity. Have your students play the parallel octave intervals, right? So they have that extension, then completely relax their hand in between each one. Watch for those hands to curl naturally and not stay stretched out. You might need to simplify the accompaniment pattern at first. So for example, in Light Dancing in the Dark, you would just ignore the 16th note octaves to start off. Just play the main pulse, those octaves, focusing on that relaxation between each one, and then adding the faster notes later in the process. This deliberate practice of extending and relaxing prevents that rigid hand position that causes tension and potential injury. I share more teaching strategies like this in my newsletter, plus behind-the-scenes composer insights and music recommendations tailored to your studio needs. And it's free. It's called the Best Piano Email Ever. The link is in the description, or scan this QR code. Let's talk about reducing the visual overwhelm that parallel octave intervals can create on the page. So here's your third activity, and I stress this all the time with my students. Decide which note to read, okay? The top note or the bottom note. When you know it's parallel octaves, there's no need to read every single note. Your student can focus on one line of the interval, whichever is easier for them to follow. This simple strategy helps your students focus on patterns rather than individual notes, which definitely reduces that visual clutter that they need to process. Now, some students naturally gravitate to reading the top line, while others prefer the bottom notes. Let them choose what feels comfortable and watch their reading fluency improve. We're going to take that reading strategy one step further. As your student chooses which line of notes to read, also get them to notice which notes they struggle with. Here's your fourth activity. This works especially well when there are multiple ledger lines in the piece. It's something that becomes more common at the late intermediate and especially at the early advanced levels. Some students find it easy to focus on the non-ledger line notes, even when they're towards the middle of the grand staff. Others can only follow on the outside of the staff, at least at this point in their development. And much like writing chord names can shortcut the reading process, adding a letter name to challenging notes can help tremendously. So have your student mark just the notes they find difficult, not every note, just the tricky ones. And this personalized approach meets them exactly where they are. So what's your go-to strategy for helping students read parallel octave intervals more fluently? Let me know in the comments. These hands-on approaches transform how your students play parallel octaves while working with music they're excited to learn. Are you ready to explore more from the Scenes of Winter collection? By the way, that's where Light Dancing in the Dark came from. You'll find the playlist and sheet music links below. Thanks and happy teaching.